everyone, I hope you all are doing good. Now in this video we are going to talk about the concept mutability versus immutability. This is a very important and the fundamental concept in Python. So without wasting time, let's get started. There are two types of Python objects, immutable and mutable. When we talk about the immutable objects, that means these are the objects whose values cannot be changed once they are created. Examples, integer, float, strings, tuples. But when we say an object is mutable, that means their values can be changed anytime. Example, list, dictionary, set. Let's understand this concept with the help of some practical examples. Let's go to PyCharm. Now let's see the immutable objects. First, let's create a variable here. I'm creating an integer variable, so it's an integer object. Now, if we print this, we'll get this value printed on the screen. Now, say in the next line, if I write a plus 10. Now, if this time I print this, let's check the result. You can see here previously it was showing us 25. Now it is showing us 35. Now you might be thinking that we have changed the variable a, which is an integer object. Then why we are calling the integer an immutable object? That means we cannot change its value. Actually, this statement is creating a new object, which is having the same name as the previous object. To check whether it's an old object or a new one, we can use id method. Whenever an object is created in Python, an id is assigned to that object. An id is a memory reference of any object, right? Now to check that id, we can use id method. Now let's check here. If I print its id 2, I can just use this method, and in this parenthesis I pass the object here. Now here also let's print its id. Now if we run this, we can see the id of both are different. You can see that means these are different objects, right? Now let's say if I don't assign again to a, if I just write a plus 10. Now if I run this time, you can see this time the object are showing the same id. Now this a is referring the same object, and also the value is also same. That means this statement is not adding 10 to the previous object, right? So here what is happening here, the value of a, that is 25. Here we are adding 10 to the 25 into the value of this. Now we are having this 35. Now this time, if we store this 35 again in the a, that means we are creating a new object with the same name. After this statement, whenever we refer a, that means we are referring this new object. The previous object will get discarded or will get ignored by the Python interpreter. Because when the same name object are created, the previous object will get ignored. So this is what happening in this statement, right? Now this time we are not printing it, or we are not storing it another variable. That's why this 35 value is not used here, right? So this is the case with the immutable objects when we are talking about the integer floats. So these objects will not get changed. When we try to edit them, they are creating us a new object. Now let's see one more example with the help of a string object. Now say if I create a string here, now this time I store say hello. Now let's say if I want to change the let's say second letter, I want to make it a capital E. Now we know the indexes, the index of the second character is 1. Now if we try to change it, say if I'm making it capital H, capital E. Now this time when we print, whether if we run it this time too, it will give us an error, type error. That means string object doesn't support the item assignment. We cannot assign a new value to the string object. That means this string is also an immutable. We cannot change this. If we use a method, string method, say if I use as upper method, we know that this method is used to change the cases of the characters of the string. So this method will make all the characters of the string in uppercase. Now say if we run this time, this is not giving us error. But if after this statement, if we print this as, Now if we run this time giving us the same value, hello, in smaller cases, that means this method is not changing the this string. This method is giving us a new string, which if we want to print it, we can put this into print function. Now if we run this, we'll get this capital case letters, right? Or we can also again store in same variable. Now what happens here now in this statement? This is a new object with the same name the previous one. Now the previous object will get discarded, or we can say will get ignored. Now whenever we use this s, now this will refer to the new object. Now if we print s, so this method is giving us now capital case letters, because this print statement is printing this new object that we have created in this second statement, right? So this is how this immutable object works. Let's understand now mutable objects and see what's the difference between both of these. Let's create a mutable object here. I'm creating a list here. Say I'm storing so here are three items in this list. Now let's say if I want to change first item, say if I use the index number of first item, and if I store here say h now, so that means that 10 should be changed. So let's print this and see whether the list has changed or not. So we print L here. Now if we run this time, we can see that instead of 10, it is showing us H. That means the first item of the list has been changed. So we can change list. So lists are mutable objects, right? Now say if I use some method, we have studied about the append method that is used to add element at the end of the list. Say if I add here k character in the end. Now if we run this time, we can see that this method is appending the item in the end of the list, right? That means lists are changeable. We can change lists. So these objects are called mutable objects, right? So this is how the dictionary and set can also be changed. So list, dictionary and set are the mutable objects, right? So I hope you have understood the difference between the mutable and immutable objects. This is for now. If you really like the video, hit the like button, subscribe the channel. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.